Hey, folks, it's time for the quote of the day. And I need to be very clear about something before I get into this one. I try as hard as I can to include not just tidbits or little bits of information in these videos as I possibly can so that people can actually learn something that they may not know. But I also give editorial, obviously. Today, we're quoting a man who basically, I mean, if you really look at it and you kind of zoom out a little bit, is foundational in everything that we do every day of our lives. There are points in history, as you look through history again, and you kind of macro out a little bit. There's points where certain thinkers would come along, and everything changed from that point on. And you see this, Marcus Aurelius is one that people often point to. That's definitely a big one. But you go through and you kind of can point to different philosophers that literally changed the way that people thought about some idea. The man that I'm quoting today, as problematic as he really honestly is, as his personal life is, and I might get to that later, without a doubt, like shaped our understanding of what society is today. I'm quoting today for his birthday Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Now, you may not know that name. If you're not somebody that follows philosophy, it's a name that, for whatever reason, has fallen out of favor. It could be because he was kind of a scumbag. But if you do know that name, then you probably know like the thing that most people know about him, which is he is considered to be the father of the French Revolution. Now, I will not be able to give you even a smidgen of how important this man is in this video. Even at 10 minutes in length, and even if I cut out all of the stuff I just said, I wouldn't be able to even scratch the surface of what this man, the man, listen, he is so influential, the ideas that he put forward, that and nobody has any idea today. Nobody has any idea. Obviously professors and, scholars and other philosophers know, but this man literally changed the way that people think without them ever realizing it forever. Our society, the way that we live in our society today, is shaped by this man. He put forward the idea of, and this was the name of his book that he's most well known for, is the social contract. Now, what is that? It's basically the idea that as soon as you're born into society, human society, that you start to learn about this contract. You start to learn the rules of existing in society, right? Now, he has a quote that I cannot for the life of me remember. I just thought of it, they're using it in this, but he has a quote. It won't be the quote of the day because I can't remember the exact wording on it, but he has a quote that's basically, we're all born free and in chains. Like, that seems contradictory. It's not. What he's saying in this is that we are all born in our natural state. We are born with freedom. We are born with all sorts of freedoms. And then, literally, every day that we live in society, we find more and more chains that pull us down and shackle us and keep us in specific ways of thinking, so specific ways of being, specific ways of living. All of the things around us, all the rules of society that we just accept as rules, are there, and they are enforced by the will of the people, the general will of the people, not even the will of all people, just the people that, we listen to for whatever reason. There is a lot about Jean-Jacques Rousseau that I don't agree with, but I absolutely agree with this. Now, here's the thing. When I say I don't agree with him, I think that this is something that, people should be able to wrap their minds around. His kind of antidote for the fact that we live in this society of rules and laws and structures that force us into little tiny boxes where we don't really get to express ourselves. We don't get to really be individuals. His kind of antidote for that is to basically make everybody kind of the same. Not really in the same way. He actually spoke out against like education that does that, but essentially kind of make everybody, like, have a society where everybody wants to feel the same. Everybody wants to be the same. It's a desire. We make it the society so good that everybody just kind of, everybody has what they need. There's nobody that's super mega rich. There's nobody that's super mega and have any sort of bonuses or leg up or anything like that. like true, absolute, I guess you could say, socialism, even though that's not really apropos to this. It's that idea that people think of when, kind of a communistic way of thinking where everything's kind of the same. The problem is that you get into, he dips his toe basically into a version of what we know of as totalitarianism, where everybody is kind of like the same, and you're essentially ruled by the masses, right? And whatever the popular whim is what you succumb to. Now, there are people out there that would argue that that's not what he puts forward, and I'm one of those people that is kind of on the fence. I could go back and forth depending upon how we're looking at it, but there's, like I said, there's so much to talk about with him and the ideas that he put forward, and so much about the way that our society works today that is literally a direct line to the things that he put forward, that I can't really get into all of it. But I do want to get into one aspect of it, and it's something that I've talked about in the past. It's something I've made videos about, and it's actually how I found out that he existed, was his idea of the noble savage. And I can only talk briefly about it, but basically the idea is that people, indigenous people that I'm, an ancestor of, not just here in America, but everywhere, that there's this kind of perception of this savage, right? That just lives in off the land, and they kind of, people think about old Native Americans as, these non-speaking weird, we've romanticized them a lot now, but that back then they had a particular vision of the savage, and he put forward the idea that our ability to whip up society on somebody, come in, and everybody was just walking around in loincloths, right? Like everybody was free. Sure, we had tribal issues and things like that, but you essentially walked around and you were free. And then here comes the people from overseas, and they whip up some society, and all of a sudden all that freedom starts to disappear. The ability to just wake up, see the sunrise, walk out, go collect some berries, go home, spend some time with your family, go kill something to eat, whatever. Like that freedom that you had back then, that way of thinking is completely stripped away once you add society to it. And he saw that as a form of nobility, living life at its meanest, at its fullest, for what it really is, understanding that we aren't necessarily supposed to be societal in the way that we look at it now, and we instead pollute what life means through society. Now, the quote of the day tells you everything you need to know about this. Jean-Jacques Rousseau once said, "People in their natural state are basically good, but this natural innocence, however, is corrupted by the evils of society." Read that one more time. People in their natural state are basically good, but this natural innocence, however, is corrupted by the evils of society. What does he mean by evils? Like, what could he possibly mean? There are people out there that immediately go, "What? How is society evil?" Well, like I said, you start from the basic pure. I used to use the analogy of a stream. You start a stream, a mountain stream that starts at the top of the mountain. The ice melts and it starts to go down, and there's a point right there, right at the beginning of the stream, where the water is crystal and pure and fucking delicious, and it's absolutely amazing. The further down the stream you go, the further down the mountain it goes, the further other tribes start to dip into it, the further down you start to get more and more living things. You start to have, bears fishing in the stream and shit like that. Like, the more stuff that interacts with the stream, the more, I guess you could say, muddied and polluted it gets, to the point where the water is no longer something that you can just drink from. It is no longer pure. It is no longer what it should be. Society, everything to a certain degree in society, does that to the natural inclinations of us as humans. We allow it because we believe in the ideas that they have put forward, that it is safe and that it is this and it is that. But what we find over time, if you really think about it, if you allow yourself to think about it, is that society, the way, the rules that we all live by, are really just another form of prison that we allow ourselves to live in. And we're all, myself included, too afraid to move against. Happy birthday to Jean-Jacques Rousseau, even though he's kind of a scumbag. And to the rest of you, take care of yourself. Take care of others. I'll talk to you soon.